Welcome back, everybody, to the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the podcast where you talk about whole life success. Those people just looking to level up their careers, their fitness, and their life in general. Each week, we talk to some really interesting people, find out a bit about their journeys, some of the things that they're doing, and they're often people who are pushing boundaries, kind of breaking some barriers, and making some big moves in their industries and their lives. And today, we're going to be talking about fitness in particular, but maybe not in the way that feels really super overwhelming or impossible to sustain. Really cool kind of episode, especially since we're at the start of the year. And if you've ever struggled to kind of find time to work out, first of all, and then keeping up with all the programs and kind of trendy things that are out there right now, and maybe just finding something that's kind of simply consistent. And I know our guest is going to help out with that today. So today we're actually joined again, I guess, by Faye Stenning. She's been on the show before, and you might know her from that, but you might also know her from NBC's coverage of Spartan Racing, or she was a $1 Million Mile defender. You may have seen her that way, or the TELUS documentary She Is Spartan as well. So beyond being an elite athlete, she's a coach, a mom, and now founder of Fit with Faye. And so hopefully we could touch on some of the things there as we go through, because it's a program, I think, to help people get stronger, fitter, and healthier without wasting a lot of time on ineffective workouts, which I know will be interesting to a lot of people. So first of all, thanks very much for jumping back on the show with us, Faye.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting today.
Yeah, yeah. So those people maybe who haven't kind of heard and seen some of your background, I think it is important for people to find out a little bit about, how you got here to where you're doing something a little bit different. I know you still do training, but maybe not at, the elite kind of. You might do elite level training, but maybe not necessarily as competition based as you once did. So tell us a little bit about kind of your transition and how you've moved more into kind of coaching and putting together programs and stuff now.
I I guess back in 2016 I was working in oil and gas in Canada. And a long story, somehow I found myself with a contract with the Reebok Spartan Pro team and all these Timex and Optima Nutrition, all these great sponsors that I've actually had the opportunity to race in obstacle course racing professionally. It was an awesome experience. And I did that up until kind of 2020, I would say. And then with COVID and just some things getting older and having to shift directions, I kind of retired as a professional athlete.
Hmm.
During my time as a professional athlete, I always coached athletes. So people that were training for races, whether that's Spartan races, marathons, 5Ks, all that. That's kind of been what I've done for years now. But yeah, I recently had a kid, and he just turned one. And again, just another transition in life. And now I'm focused on, I just started another business. And the motivation with that is I think I realized after having children that
Yeah.
holy smokes, I get it when people say I don't have time to train. And I kind of a red light, like a light kind of came on, and I was like, you know what? Like, I love my one-on-one clients and I love coaching people who have the time and want to devote it to doing these races and running marathons and obstacle races. But what about the rest of the population who just has 30, 40 minutes 3 times a week? What can
Yeah.
I deliver to them? And so this is kind of how this Fit with Faye evolved. A lot of it was the stuff that I was forced to do. All of a sudden, I realized I had like no time to train, and it's like, how do I be efficient with my time? And so it's quite cool because when I was getting back into shape after having a baby, I was just putting together these workouts, not thinking that I would start this
Hmm.
business. I was just putting together my sustainable fitness routine that was very time efficient. And next thing I know, a year later, I've taken those same workouts that got me back in shape in, very little time in those early newborn phases and put them into a package to hopefully sell to the masses. So,
Yeah.
it's just been a neat experience.
Yeah, and I think there's probably tons of people that really understand what you're talking about there. That especially when you can become a new parent and try to kind of measure off all those things you do, you just don't have the same amount of time. So I know a lot of traditional programs. That is one of the challenges I think about being able to fit in what people I think traditionally think you have to do. So maybe just tell us. I know you talk a lot about your program being um, efficient from that sense, but also very kind of science based and some of those things. So just kind of tell us from that perspective about, how do you get kind of the results in 2 to 3 days a week, whereas, some people I think have probably until they suddenly get in this new phase of life felt like, oh, I have to do a lot more. But what are some of the bases of being able to do that from both a science and efficiency standpoint?
Think just an important part is sort of understanding your body and how it responds to different fitness stimulus. So, if we're trying to, most people's goals, I mean, obviously we all need to have healthy hearts, and cardiorespiratory fitness is also really important. But a lot of people's goals really do come to shaping up and losing weight and being leaner.
Yeah,
Body composition is extremely important, not just for looking good and having a six pack, but holding extra weight around, especially your abdomen, is a huge, huge risk factor for numerous metabolic syndrome diseases, everything from diabetes to heart disease. We know this. And what why we can make exercise a bit more efficient is because we're selecting certain exercise and we're programming it in a way where we're really taxing the muscles and creating a lot of mechanical tension to change that tissue type into lean muscle mass. And it doesn't take a ton of time. It just needs the number one factor that a tissue needs to change is actually just fatigue. So you need to get your muscles to a point of fatigue. Now, you don't need, unless you're crazy, to get your bicep, for instance, to fatigue. It
yeah,
doesn't take that long. You don't need hours.
right.
So if you can program sets, reps, pace of lifts, and choose the appropriate exercises that are doing the job, you don't need to have a million different exercises and hours. We're really just trying to get the muscle to be under mechanical tension, to get it to a fatigue point. And then what will happen is that tissue will rebuild, get stronger. And that's where you start seeing the gains in lean muscle mass. Um, what's so important about having more lean muscle mass than fat mass, aside from the obvious, you look better,
Sure.
is because it really helps elevate your metabolism, which is what I think a lot of people struggle with, particularly as they age. We know as we age, our metabolism goes down. We also know as we age, our muscle tissue goes down, which is another reason why our metabolism goes down. So if we can try and counteract that, we're going to have healthier metabolisms and be able to manage our weight as we age. Um, but
And
yeah, sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
Faye, one thing, it just makes me think of, I think there's a lot of people who think my only way to lose weight, especially this time of year, my only way to do that is to do like so much cardio that, that's what burns it off. And I know that you're an expert in strength training, and obviously what you're talking about, a lot of that is very much, focused on strength training rather than just pure cardio. How much of that is it was incorporated in here, and maybe how important is that for people that are maybe new moms that are looking at, oh, okay, that just means, I'm not going to have time to go and run for an hour every day to be able to burn this stuff off. What would you say from that standpoint? Like, how's that built in?
Yeah, I think I think it's kind of a I don't think it's a very beneficial to think about exercise in terms of burning calories. I think that because really what ends up happening is you're just in this cycle of like, I'm going to eat a bunch of food and then I'm going to burn it off. And then, oh, now I'm burned all these calories and now I'm hungry again and now I'm going to refeed and burn it off. And you just get in this cycle. Like that's not what exercise is meant to do. We've now sort of constructed that because we tend to overindulge, but don't think about exercise is going to correct your bad dietary habits.
Mm.
Cleaning up your diet is number one thing. I mean, along with strength training, but Ali will even say it
Yeah.
probably works a lot better than strength training, is just eating a lot better.
Yeah.
But what's cardio, yes, will burn more calories if you're thinking about strength training for an hour versus like going on the elliptical for an hour. Yes, you will burn more calories, but when you're done that cardio session, the changes are done. You've burnt the calories by when you strength train, what's
Yeah.
happening is your body is putting on muscle mass, and that muscle mass is what's called, it's more metabolically active than fat mass. And so it basically will be able to burn more calories at rest. So that's the beautiful thing about increasing lean muscle mass is it can work for you while it's not even working. Well, it's just sitting there resting. That's one of the reasons why men tend to have higher metabolisms than women, is because they tend to carry a lot more lean muscle mass on their body. And so that's what we're trying to get everyone. We're trying to just recalibrate people's metabolism so they don't have to be miserable the rest of their
Yeah.
life watching everything they're eating. We want things to be high energy, burning a lot, while we're resting, while we're working, while we're driving, while we're doing all these things, because no one has time to spend endless amounts. Just, I'm going to eat 500 calories and then I'm going to burn 500 calories. The last thing I'll say about cardio,
Yeah.
whether you are running, walking, whatever, kind of just try and increase your daily energy expenditure will have generally a greater impact than doing more cardio. So if you think about, oh, I'm going to run an extra 2 miles every day. Okay. So let's call that, say you're running a 10-minute mile. So you're going to exercise for an extra 20 minutes a day. Like that's a great goal. But if you can just throughout your day stand more, walk more, take the stairs, it's crazy how those little tiny things actually, those are like daily activities, daily energy expenditures, those really really add up. It's similar to the concept when finance people are saying, if you want to save money, it's not the big purchases you're doing, it's
Yeah.
those $5 coffees you're having every single day. These little things do add up. So just be a little bit more mindful in your step counts when you're standing, walking places, taking less, vehicles, and just moving your body a bit more instead of being so focused on calories and watching those consults at the gym and seeing how much you burn, because
Yeah.
that's just a really it's just not a great mindset to be in.
Yeah, it's kind of changing your perspective on those things because I think those are, we are at that start of the year kind of piece, and people are setting up goals, and oftentimes, people set goals that are either unrealistic or maybe don't incorporate things like that. They go for these big things that maybe they do for 2 weeks, and it's just okay. I don't have time. I can't do this anymore, and it starts to peter out and go away. Rather than the small incremental change that maybe that's more of a goal setting
Mhm.
piece. So, how do you work through that with clients? Because you may have very different goals. Because obviously, you're if anything trying to come from elite status training down to something else. But if you've got somebody who's maybe listening at home thinking, okay, I don't even know where to start from a goal setting standpoint at the new year because I just want to get in better shape than I am today, or start to maybe recover after something. So how do you approach goal setting with a client? Because obviously it's somewhat different, what their goals will be for every individual. How do you approach that, Faye?
I think that if you're like not, getting ready for any sort of competition or anything and you just want to get fitter, like really defining what is fitter, right?
Mm.
So what does that actually mean? I mean, again, part of the motivation for setting up Fit with Faye is because most people's in their mind, fitter is related to body composition. It is related to losing weight or toning up or losing body fat. So like going with that goal, I think it's important to measure it correctly is the number one. Like don't just go off the scale. It can be really deceiving when you're losing fat but gaining muscle. You can feel like you're getting nowhere because there's different weights of a pound of fat versus or a gram of fat versus a gram of of muscle. Those are quite different.
Mhm.
So measuring it properly, whether you're a piece of clothing is a great way. Like your jeans won't lie. Where if you've lost around your waist circumference, or if you have a scale that measures body fat, a lot of times you don't even need any of that stuff. You can just look at yourself in the mirror, but I just would urge people to not get so stuck on the scale because your body can change quite a bit and the
Yeah.
scale might not budge. Um, but yeah, I think like a huge goal also people are realizing with fitness is like mental health. And when it comes to like there's not a lot of things that we do in a day for ourselves when you think about it. If you're working for someone, you're always trying to drive value to that company. If you have a family, you're always trying to take care of that family. And then what's really left for yourself? And that's, I think, where a lot of people are finding value in fitness is because it's something that it is selfish, but it's a good type of selfish because it's taking care of your health, which is enabling you to take care of your family and perform better at work. So I think that along with having some of those aesthetic goals, it's really good to recognize how you're feeling after a workout. How does it improve your day? How is it improving your relationships with loved ones? How is it improving your performance at work? And also tagging some of those mental health goals into your physical goals as well, because the more goals you can have, it's easier to stay on track. Because if you're not hitting your physical goals, you're going, wow, well, I didn't really lean up this month, but boy, I was a lot nicer to my husband, or
Yeah.
vice versa. If you're, just have mental goals, but maybe it's not serving you mentally, but you see your body change, it's nice to have both so you can draw motivation wherever it falls, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and doesn't it also even shift depending on what's happening in your life at any one time? It's good to know that, sometimes one area maybe gets more attention and is a little easier to do than other times. And actually that might be a question. Do you have advice for people that are, I mean, because lots of people who listen are juggling their careers and their family plus trying to do kind of fitness and their routines from that end. Do you have any advice to not feel overwhelmed? How do you do that? Or maybe how do you even approach it yourself? Because I mean, you're going through that. You've got a 1-year-old, which is a super busy time, plus you are an entrepreneur, plus you are doing your own kind of fitness and other things as well. How do you approach that? Or what do you do to make sure you don't get overwhelmed, I guess?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is kind of realizing first of its importance. I think a lot of people kind of think that, oh yeah, it must be nice for you to go work out. Like I can't do that because I've got all these things going on. And so I think giving it the attention it deserves. And so like understanding like, yeah, there's stuff at work that's critical and needs to get done. There's stuff in your family life that's critical and needs to get done. But I think a lot of time we're putting some of those things ahead of our fitness, when sometimes they do need to be ahead and a lot of times they will, but sometimes some things can wait, whether in, with some of the work, things can maybe be pushed a little bit if you have the opportunity, or some things in your family life you can step away for that 30 minutes. So I think realizing that it should be one of the top 5 things on your priority list,
Mhm.
and making time for that. And what I do is I actually put it in my Google Calendar, just like you sent me an invite for this meeting. I also have an invite sent with myself from 2 to 3 today that says strength train. And so that's in my calendar. And it's something about putting it in a calendar and making an appointment with yourself that gives it value and gives it weight. So I find that's really helpful and I make sure that gets done.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that with the overwhelming piece, I think that people look for fitness programs, or they want to go to classes, or do all these routines, and they're really trying to make their life fit into this 6 p.m. cycle class, or this workout routine that's 5 days of strength training a week, 60 minutes. And they're just trying so hard to just, fit that in their life. But I think what you need to do is do the reverse. So look at your calendar and actually see, like Mondays, maybe I just have 20 minutes, but maybe Wednesdays I have 40 minutes, and maybe on Saturdays I have 90 minutes. Then build your fitness routine about the pockets of time that you actually have available instead of doing the reverse way. That's what I've had to do. I used to always have guaranteed an hour every day, maybe even mostly 2 hours. And so I never really had to think about this. But now, having a young kid, it's like, oh shit, like now I have to realize that Tuesdays just aren't a day that I can work out. Like I've
Yeah.
never taken a Tuesday off in my life, but now I take Tuesdays off, and that's okay
Yeah.
because Thursdays are a great day, and I can go a little longer there. So really look at your schedule and figure out where the pockets are,
Yeah.
and also figure out where you there's definitely time leaking that doesn't need to be leaking. Like there's so much extra time that we just don't even appreciate, from just like scrolling on Instagram to like I don't know, even just like sitting in bed for those extra 20 minutes when your alarm goes off. Like those are you can get some serious work done with the dumbbells in 20 minutes, let me tell you. Like
Yeah.
just being efficient and having a plan is really important.
Yeah, and I mean we're talking kind of well like halfway through January right now. Um, how many people, I mean, you think about it, are probably at the start of January picked up some kind of thing that they wanted to do, some trendy thing, and or also maybe just approached it incorrectly, and are at that point now where they are probably already falling off and not feeling like they are succeeding right now. So
I
like
know.
what do you see as like what are some of the common mistakes people make at the start of a year every year where we all know that resolutions and everything fall off right at about now. They're probably already kind of either gone or falling off for the majority of people out there. What do you think, what creates that for people? Why does that happen?
Yeah, people just bite off more than they can chew. Like, holy smokes. Like, I mean, I see it all the time with my one-on-one clients I coach. It's like every month we chat, and every month it's like, oh, they're like, oh, I didn't get my training done. I was like, okay, but I mean, you told me last month you had like 2 hours a day. So, I built your training around this. And no, I actually don't. Now I have 90 minutes. And then another month goes by. No, I only have an hour. And so we are biting off way more than we can chew, number one.
Yeah.
So our goals aren't realistic. I also think, especially in January, there's a lot of like guilt driven fitness. And it's just like that's not like a healthy mindset to have with fitness. Like it's just it people don't see it as a lifestyle. They see it as a quick fix. Like I just binge drank for, since Thanksgiving in America. So, November, whatever, 20th, all the way for the last 6 weeks. And I
Yeah.
feel like garbage. And now I want to like correct that. I want to like undo that. And you're looking for quick fixes. You're going to go on this like, just like you went on a drinking binge, now you're going to go on this fitness binge. There's just no fitness binge. Just do not do that. You need to make it a lifestyle. So, um like consistent consistency is just so important. And consistent consistency does not look like 2 hours every day that you're just going to kill yourself at it. For most people, I would say most people, from what the people that I've worked with, I think like 4 times a week, 45 minutes. I don't think it needs to be huge,
Mhm.
and that's 4 times, maybe 45 minutes of some sort of structured training, but
Yeah.
still being mindful of those other times in your life where you're still moving. It doesn't mean that you just work out at the gym like 4 times a week for 45 minutes and then you're just gonna like sit on your butt the rest of the time. No, you're active with your kids, you're walking to the grocery store, you're on your feet, you're moving your body. So don't just there's training time,
Yeah.
regimented structured training, but there's also just living an active lifestyle. And that is so, so, so important. I always laugh with my friends in New York because everyone walks around here and everyone's like skinny here. And it's like, I'm so skinny. And, a lot of my friends here do not even go to the gym at all, but they're on their feet. They're walk because you're not like people don't have cars here. People are walking. Everything they do, they're walking. Like the average step count of a New Yorker is crazy. And it just goes to show that it's that extra activity that you just don't even think about, that just happens in your day, that is
Yeah.
really, really, really is a huge, huge benefit when it comes to just, weight, maintaining weight, and just living a little bit healthier.
Yeah. And it's kind of tying back to some of the stuff you said before. It's if you aren't doing that kind of walking, that obviously some, if you live in an urban area and things like that, it's a lot more normal just because you don't have cars. You have to walk around, and you do those incremental steps throughout your day integrated with your regular lifestyle. But that may be a change that some people have to make. But that is a change that actually creates, some real change just by integrating those things. And I think it's the goal setting part that you talked about. Obviously, people, if they're looking into a program like yours that we'll kind of talk about in a couple of minutes, but if they're doing that, it's the important part is also to look at kind of the whole life goals that you talked about as well, about how do I make it just part of what I do, and not just goals in one area or another, because that's kind of bound to fail if unless you kind of figure out a way of integrating that into what you do every day, and your goals integrate into what you do every day. Is that fair to say?
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, like 100%. And also like to integrate things even more, it's like kind of just get the people that you spend your time with, like get them involved too. I think that's like really, really important. It's just it's huge because again, it becomes a lifestyle. It's everyone in the household. This is our lifestyle. This is how we live.
Yeah.
And you don't have to think about it. You don't think about it as your fitness routine. It's just this is how we live a healthy life. We move and we exercise and we eat healthy and we don't even think twice about it. We don't just make these, we don't fall off the bandwagon in November, December every year, and then January, get guilt driven into like going crazy on the fitness bandwagon. We just do it 12 months a year on repeat for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. And being intentional about it. It is interesting, like families that actually, do things with, think about their meals, pre-plan things, do things for the week, stuff like that. They're the ones that can be probably the most successful at that, because you are thinking about it and not suddenly rushing to get something together because you haven't thought about it at the start of the week. And that just becomes how they live moving forward, which makes a big difference as well, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
so, maybe one last piece is, if people are looking, there are tons of people that are probably going, oh my gosh, I've fallen off, and maybe this is something I want to do. Are there a couple of kind of quick things maybe that, if they just want to kind of start that process, and we'll talk about your program in just a second and how they might be able to access that, but even just, what would you say would be a couple of things that would make a big difference quickly for somebody if they want to kind of start on a path to getting healthier, even just this week? What would be most important, I guess, to do?
I think most one of the most important things is to know how to like safely weight train and not and just know the basic movements and the big hitters, what I like to call them, like the squatting and the deadlifting and the pushing and the pulling, like just the basics. Like, can we do a push up? Can we, do a bent over row? Can we squat? Can we lunge? Like, just know those basic movement patterns and start with them, sure, body weight, and then just progress, like very simple. Like if you want to get into fitness, progressively overload those by, grab 10s and then grab 15s and then grab 20s. And then maybe you work to the barbell, but just work on those movements. Those are really going to be the best at, like I mentioned, like creating muscular tension in the body and really changing your tissue and really stimulating that lean muscle mass. Another thing I think is just, yeah, have some sort of a uh, activity goals for the week where you're moving your body, whether it's taking your kids to the park on Wednesday, that you go to the park that's maybe it's a mile walk to get there instead of the one that's across the street. Maybe you look at how you're getting places. How are you getting to work? Is there an opportunity for you to walk? What are you doing on your lunch hour? Like, do you need to sit at your desk and eat your sandwich, or can you go? Is there a park nearby that you could just do a couple laps? But yeah, adding some like walking and just movement to your day. And then yeah, the third thing I think is looking at, I think it's like important to look at your diet as well. I mean, we can't, I stay out of the diet realm because I'm not a dietitian.
Yeah.
Um, but like we know what food is healthy, we know what food is unhealthy. look at the food that you're eating that's unhealthy. And I think digging a little bit into the psychology is like, why are you eating those foods? Are you tending to eat them after a bad day? Are you like, I think that's really important. I'll be the first to admit it. Like, I am definitely an emotional eater. The worse my week is, the more times I go get a piece of cake at the end of the day. The busier and happier I am, the more I'm just like, oh, I need to tonight.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like kind of think I think look at your food choices and see what's really behind driving those poor decisions. What's really there. Um, a lot of times, to be honest, we're just like addicted to sugar, and sometimes you just like need to cold turkey. Like if you can try and reduce it, it's funny that your body will stop craving it. It's sugar is one of those things. The more you give it, the more you want it. So
yeah.
sometimes you just got to do the hard thing and just really try and limit it, and you'll be surprised that you won't crave it quite as much.
Yeah, I mean it's that whole kind of sugar and processed food stuff that, I mean,
So
I
addicting.
don't think you need to be a big have a big nutritionist program to know that you probably shouldn't have as
I
much
know.
sugar and you should probably eat more whole foods. Like it's,
I
you know,
know. It's exactly it. Is we don't need to go crazy. Just same with fitness too. Like
yeah,
food is the same as fitness. Like just like we don't need to don't necessarily need to hire a dietitian and get really nitpicky about your food. You just like you said, focus on whole foods, limit the processed foods. It's same kind of with fitness. Like we don't need to go crazy and try all this new hot class that everyone's raging about that has this new awesome exercises that's provide like is going to chisel your body in just 3 repetitions. Like no, it's like no, you just got to like move more and like resistance training. Like it's not that complicated. We just overcomplicate it because I think our society is always trying to find that like magic
yeah,
pill, and it just doesn't exist. It's back to the basics. That's one of my taglines at Fit with Faye is like, people, like, let's just go back to the basics. Like let's just like the whole foods. Like resistance training is like the whole foods thing.
yeah,
It's the basics. It's what we've been saying for years. It's not fancy. It's not rocket science. Let's just get rid of all the other stuff that's going to move the needle, 0.5% and focus on the big hitters.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I mean, great advice, and I'm sure there's tons of people that are going to want to, take that advice, and if people are looking to, follow you and then maybe check out your new program, what are the best ways to do that, Faye?
You can follow me. My Instagram is Faye Stenning underscore OCR. But yeah, if you just it's fitwithfaye.com. Very, very simple.
Yep.
All the information is there. You can contact me directly on the site. If you're wondering if it would be a good fit for you, it's a good fit for anyone.
Hmm.
And there's 2 different packages. So I've made a package for people that want to train at home and people that want to train at the gym.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's 3 times a week. Workouts range from 40 to 60 minutes. And last thing I do want to say about it, there is a bit of a time crunch if you are interested because prices will go up at the end of the month. I just had a January sale, which is going to end in 11 days.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll make sure that we've got the links on there. So people, if you're listening and this sounds interesting to you, I'm sure there'll be tons of people that will want to take advantage of it. So if you do, just go through and take a look and connect with Faye. I mean, take a look at her background. If you don't know that too, she has an amazing kind of athletic background as well as coaching background. So just know you're getting some really heavy expertise here. So so do that. And if you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, do that now because we have great people every week, just like Faye. And again, thanks for taking the time. I mean, for blocking us into one of your blocks for today. So I know that you're busy, Faye, and really appreciate you taking the time again with us today.
Thanks so much. And yeah, just everyone listening, stay as eager in February as you were in January.
Great advice. Well, and again, thanks everybody. Take advantage of the cheaper pricing in January, and definitely connect in with the program as well. So, and everybody else, we will talk again soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.